first thing that we've noticed, of course, is that anyone that had either been ignoring the so-called special military operation, choosing to opt out of either reading reports or trying to just continue their lives unaffected, are now brought in to have an opinion on what's going on, and certainly will be affected by it, with the potential for 25 million Russian men, based on the reserve forces numbers, to be conscripted, although now indeed the Kremlin says it will only be 300,000. And then the next step of reaction, depending on who you talk to, is either one of seeking to flee the country in response to this. They do not want to fight. Perhaps they don't believe that what's going on is something Russia should be doing, and they're choosing to head to the borders, the land borders that Russia has with Finland, which could get them into the European Union Schengen zone, perhaps to the west or south to Georgia, which currently seems to have the longest line with a waiting time of around 24 hours, or for those in the east, Mongolia or Kazakhstan. Flights are now available again after being sold out on Wednesday and Thursday to countries that have a visa-free regime for Russians, but they are incredibly expensive. Others, as you mentioned, are choosing to protest. They're not the largest protests we've seen in Russia by any means, after months, if not years, of repression when it comes to the ability for those to come out and protest. But indeed, this did spark some, with 1,300 arrests. And then there are others that are choosing to go. According to at least the military conscription officials, they say 10,000 with the call-up have volunteered at conscription stations to go to Ukraine. Others quite simply accepting it. They've been given their conscription papers, they've gone to the centres, and whether they like it or not, either jubilant, as we've seen with some scenes, or quite depressed, people are just heading to the centres, as the law requires them to do once they've been issued those conscription papers.
And let's talk briefly on the strategy here, because we've been hearing since the beginning of the war that it's all about the material losses. It's not about the people they're bringing in. Whether it's 300,000 additional conscripts going into Ukraine, does Russia have enough war materials, given the, frankly, horrendous losses they've taken so far in the war, to continue prosecuting a large-scale war, even if they have this additional people?
Yeah, so from within inside Russia, there are reporting restrictions, which means I can only say what officials are saying, but I can tell you what the Russian officials are saying. And President Vladimir Putin himself addressed this issue on Wednesday in his announcement to the nation. He not only talked about the need for a mobilization of the population, but he did also talk about a mobilization of manufacturing for the defense industry. He said that the government must ensure that it has all the money required to conduct what is needed to pump out the weapons required to fight in Ukraine. And previously, months ago, legislation was passed that would allow the defense industry companies to force and pay their workers more at the same time to deliver more, come in on weekends, take over time. So measures have been taken elsewhere to try to provide the equipment that these troops will need.
Okay, so they're definitely gearing up for a larger scale conflict. Thanks for joining us.